I got a story for you guys, and I have not told this on YouTube yet. And it's a true scary story. Well, I almost got killed, so I guess you could kind of call it a scary story. But it is, guys. We're Blair from 6D, and today we are here to probably scare the crap out of ourselves. So this is trying to get scared challenge. I don't know how well this is going to go, considering the story I listened to yesterday, like two of the stories out of these 9, they were pretty freaking scary as all crap. If you guys want to watch the original video, the link subscription down below. It is by Corpse Husband.
This is something that happened to me about 2 years ago, but thinking about it still gives me chills. I used to live in a small town in rural Missouri with my mother and stepfather. Our house was a few miles outside of town and along an old state highway. We were pretty isolated out there, other than the occasional passing car or farm equipment. One day, I came home from a morning shift at work. I was pretty tired, so I immediately came in the front door and sprawled out on the couch. My mother and stepfather were preparing to go into town to visit a family friend. So I just started a movie and quickly drifted off to sleep. I must have been asleep for a couple of hours before I was woken up to the sound of my front door opening and closing. I laid silently, hoping to fall back asleep. I assumed it was just my parents returning from their visit. After a moment of silence, I heard an unfamiliar voice say, "Where is everybody?" My eyes shot open and I looked up to see a man standing over me. I have never seen this man before. He was tall and muscular, and he was wearing a white t-shirt with cut-off sleeves. He was also covered head to toe in blood. I jumped to my feet instantly. I had never been so scared in my life. Trying to rationalize, I asked, "Are you looking for my parents?" He stared at me for a moment and asked,
This nigga's covered in blood. Do you want him to find your parents?
who I was. I replied by asking, "Who are you and what the fuck are you doing in my house?" He stared at me blankly. I thought I was going to be murdered. He kept talking incoherently and asking where everyone was. At this point, I had no idea who he was referring to. After about 5 minutes of nearly crippling fear, I realized that the blood that was all over his clothes and his face was his own. I glanced out the living room window toward the
That's not better. And how do you know that's his?
highway, and then I started to understand. In the drainage ditch in front of my house was a red pickup truck. I told the man to come with me and we went outside. Soon after we got near the truck, another vehicle pulled up. Apparently the man had been drunk driving and had driven his truck into the ditch. He was drunk and had a concussion from the wreck. He was so messed up that he thought that other people were in the truck with him before the wreck when, in fact, he had been alone. He had stumbled into the nearest house looking for help. The driver that had just pulled up drove the man to the hospital, and as far as I know, he was okay. Though I understand the situation now, I will never forget this. It was fucking terrifying.
Bro, that has to be one of the scariest things I've ever heard in my freaking